Hello, hello. We'll be adding Danish at 3. Danish will just send request at 3. Meanwhile, just we can hang in here. So let's wait. Do you guys know this song? The one there is in background. It is from movie Break Ke Baad, and Mr. Danish Aslam was the director. So we'll be joining him at 3. We'll just waiting for 2-3 minutes and we'll join. We'll add him. Okay. Hello. Good
Hi,
afternoon. How are you, sir?
good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, perfectly. Just a
Okay.
second. So, congratulations for your movies. First of all, it's a really, really good movie. I uh, like. I remember when I was college, I watched this Break Ke Baad. This was most anticipated movie back then. After that, uh, it's not that simple and flash. I haven't seen that time out yet. And then she loves me and she loves me not. Uh, so how is the review that you are getting? Like the people I know, what I'm hearing, like they really like the movie. So what is your experience about it?
Yeah, the reactions have been pretty good actually. I mean, in fact, just today morning I went on Twitter and just randomly did a search to see what the unfiltered reactions would be like. And like the first couple of pages that I saw, just in terms of time, everybody seemed to be liking it. The reviews have been fairly decent. Whatever feedback I've gotten from people, and because it's on Netflix and it's a platform which is the biggest in the world, I've actually been getting texts from people, from friends all around the world who have seen it, which is a great thing. And I guess the advantage that the platform gives you is that there's access globally, and
Right.
instantly. So the reactions have been pretty good. I've got quite a few from the LGBTQ community as well who are happy with the representation online, which was kind of the idea and is also a pleasant thing to experience. I've gotten some feedback from people who've noticed little things that I put in there, which I hoped that they would. So yeah, it's overall been a good experience. It was, I mean, compared to the other shows, which are whole seasons and take like months to shoot and, like 8 episodes and stuff, here it was a fairly quick thing, and it was just one episode. But the feedback has been quite good, and the reactions have been quite good.
Uh, Actually, the best thing was like uh, typical romantic movie that uh, for queer community, LGBTQ, like a mushy romance movie. Uh, Whenever there is representation in Bollywood, it is about their struggle and like they have to struggle. That is there. That but like a typical romantic movie for them. That was I think first in the Bollywood.
Yeah, that was intentional. The idea when the script was given to me, Sulagna Chatterjee is the writer. She had written a draft, which was sent to me. What I liked about it was the fact that this was a story that was a love story between two people, and the fact that they happen to be queer, like one is bisexual and the other is a
Yes,
lesbian, is incidental and not the focus
right,
of the story. I feel that in India, especially, I mean, thanks to 377 being legalized just now, and also the society that we live in, due to various factors, the stories that we've been telling about queer people or about the LGBTQ community is have been focused on either the struggle that comes with being of that sexual orientation, which is fair and it's a very real and it's a very real thing. Or it's an over-the-top caricature, which is what Bollywood tends to do. Like where if
right.
somebody's
Yeah,
queer, then they're a flaming queen and they have to sing songs and dance and look and
yeah,
talk a certain way. Both of
yeah.
which are extremes, I feel. And what I felt was missing, and what I really wanted to do was to tell a story which was just a love story between two people, and the queerness happens to be incidental to it. It's like, for example, if you do a love story between people from two religions in this country, and you don't mention it, nobody notices it. In Break Ke Baad, for example, I had done the same thing. The characters are from different religions, but it's never mentioned, it's never highlighted, and nobody cares. The same story can be told as a Hindu-Muslim love story or as a gay, coming out story and the struggles and the if you choose to focus on that. I wanted not to because I felt that this was a space that was strongly needed in terms of representation. I tried to do this a few years back as well with Balaji. There was a movie that I was trying to make, which ultimately became a show once the movie didn't work out, called Romil and Jugal. I don't know what the show's like. I haven't seen it, but in the movie as well, the idea behind that about 6, 7 years ago was I was trying to tell. What excited me even then was that I wanted to tell a story about two boys who fall for each other, and it's a rom-com about them, and the fact that they're gay is part of it, but it's not the primary focus.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Everybody don't want to fight that fight. Like it's their story, and they are not facing problem. It's their romantic story. It's just a romantic story. Like it's their
Well,
life strictly.
I'm sure people are facing issues in real life because as a society, unfortunately, we're still not progressive enough that this has become normalized. But the idea was that there should be stories at least which are normalized, which normalize this, and which more importantly celebrate it. Just celebrate love. Your orientation should not matter when you're falling in love with someone in real life. And even though we don't live in that kind of a utopian society yet, at least not in this country, we can at least tell stories about it and happy stories about it.
Coming to happy story, actually, like I don't know if it's true. Like when I see your work, it's like you are a typical Bollywood fan. That the character Sunita in Break Ke Baad. Like there's this thing like this Bollywood in your work. That trademark.
I think anybody who works in the Indian film industry in Bollywood automatically imbibes a certain amount of it into their bloodstream, whether it's conscious or not. Personally speaking, no, I wasn't. I mean, I was when I came here for the first time. I was a very typical film school student who was not very excited about Bollywood and was more into world cinema. And jo hota hai when you come out of film school, that whole thing that
Yes,
you
yes,
have. But I feel that being, referencing Bollywood is something that we can't help if we live in India. I mean, whether we like it or not, and whether we want it or not, it's a part of our lives, and the references will crop up. So I'm not consciously doing that because, like to show fandom or anything, but it comes in inadvertently. and I'm not complaining about it. It's a good thing.
Yeah, neither do I. Actually. Uh, that that thing in the Break Ke Baad, that Deepika will go under the table, that place, that her safe place.
Yes.
That was when I was in college, that was the thing. Like that was the before most anticipated thing, even before the release. That place, that under the table coffee, that was like typical Bollywood thing, but it was so sweet.
I don't know how typically Bollywood it was, but yeah, it was sweet, and yeah, it was a good scene.
Yeah.
Somebody, in fact, on Instagram only recently did a incorporated that visual into a classic painting and made like a mashup of it, which was quite nice. I'm assuming it worked for a lot of people. I also think that was the first image that was released from the movie, so it was like, the first thing that people got to see, so it had more of an impact.
So after Break Ke Baad, what was it like? I think you haven't. I haven't seen you on screen. We haven't seen you much on screen after that.
Well, I'm thankfully my job keeps me away from the screen. It has to be behind the screen, so you won't really see me on the screen. But after Break Ke Baad, I mean, I realized, or I learned rather, that making your first movie is not as difficult as making your second one is. Because पहली तो बन जाती है because you're still an unknown quantity, but the second one it's a lot more time consuming as a process. For immediately after Break Ke Baad, for about 4 to 5 years, it was a process of about two movies started with different studios. I think one was with UTV, one was with Balaji, and they both went into like a certain stage and then they stopped for different reasons, which I don't want to get into right now. But that took up about 4 to 5 years of my life. And then I did a bit of TV in the middle. I did a show called Siyasat with Epic, the channel that had launched. My brother-in-law, Rishabh, said he was producing it. So I helped with the writing and then ended up directing a part of it as well. And then, fortunately enough, I think in 2016, I got a call for a web series, which was a new concept at that point because none of the other shows, none of the Sacred Games and the Maiden Heavens and everything had not come out yet. And the web series was still a concept that nobody had any idea of how it worked or how it was different from television. And that web series was It's Not That Simple. And I loved the story. I loved the fact that I could, work with people that I wanted to. There were no box office or financial, restrictions. And yeah, so after that, I haven't really looked back. I've just been doing digital content on OTT since then, since, yeah, 16. So it's been 5 years now.
Any particular project or story that you want to do? I mean,
यार ऐसे तो मतलब you have many scripts lying in your drawers, like James Cameron did with Avatar, and then you pull it out after 10 years and realize, let's make this. Any particular story? I mean, there are many stories I want to tell. Unfortunately, some of them I will not be able to or allowed to tell in the current climate of our country. So I'm hoping that either someday I will be able to make them, or maybe I'll just make them once things are a little different. Apart from that, I'm really open to anything. I mean, I would love to do a story in Kashmir. At least my friends and my family keep telling me I should, because that's where I'm from. And I have a couple of ideas for those. But again, like I said, uh, political angles maybe I'll have to avoid. Let's see. I'm hoping not, because it's a part of reality. And I enjoy doing Flesh, for example, because it was a genre that I had never done before. It was a dark thriller. It had a fair amount of action, which I'd never done before. So I would love to do another show or movie in that space. Yeah, because I've done rom-coms and love stories, and I like doing them, and it's always fun to experiment in that space. But I'd like to try a few different genres. Sci-fi, maybe. I'm a huge sci-fi fan. I read a lot of it. Unfortunately, that genre in this country, the problem is budgets and time don't allow you to make it the way that they
exactly,
should be,
yeah.
ideally. So you get a little restricted that way. But let's see, maybe someday in the future.
Uh, Actually, India doesn't have like one sci-fi movie like we can. Uh,
I mean, that's not our fault entirely because, like I said, if you want to make a proper, well, at least a big one, I mean, you can always make an indie one, which is possible, which doesn't require a lot, and there's nothing stopping us from doing that. But if you want to make a big budget spectacle like that, then the amount of time and money that you need to invest and prepare for, because you need to do like a year, 2 years of post, which over here a lot of people don't have the patience for. Once a movie is shot, you want to release it, so it's a slightly difficult genre to, get into. But Things are improving. Let's see.
No, but this is also a thing like if they one big break is required in a genre, if that genre is tapped and something clicks, then it will follow with me.
That is true. That is true. I agree. And yeah, hopefully somebody will do something because now with the way VFX has improved and tentpole movies seem to be a thing now here as well. Maybe somebody will, put something together that will work, and then people will maybe we'll have an Avengers here as well. Who knows? Even though that's not like hard sci-fi, but still.
Brahmastra, I don't know when it will be coming.
Sure.
So maybe that can be a thing.
Well, fingers crossed. Ayan is a great director
Yeah.
and he's a lovely guy. So I'm assuming that he's made something which is going to be good.
Uh, the reason, like you are saying, political drama, like that involves political angle in the movie. अभी के time में isn't it even more required that we should be making more of those movies?
Sure, it's required, but then requirement versus reality is unfortunately a clash that we have to face. I mean, I just read today that with the new IT Act, I think Kashyap, some movie has been pulled up from 3 or 4 years ago, and people, you can now retrospectively pull out movies and say that this offends me. First of all, I have a problem. I don't want this chat to go in an exclusively political direction, but being offended is like a national pastime for us as a country, and we love being
Yeah.
offended at anything and everything. And even if there's nothing, we'll find something to be offended at. So now the fact that you can pull out a movie from 10 years ago and say I'm offended by that. I mean, and there's no recourse. There's no apart from going to the courts. I feel that yes, political statements and need to be made. Political movies need to be made. They were made during the worst of times, during the emergency as well, and I feel they should be. Unfortunately, I don't think it's very easy to do that because there is a lot of problems that you need to face. And from the outside looking in, it's very easy to say कि कौन रोक रहा है, but when you're working within the industry, there are a lot of visible and invisible pressures that you need to deal with, and that's a sad fact of reality. So
Because like I follow your wife Shruti also on Twitter. She is politically very active.
yes,
So that's what
that's
like.
that's that's all I have to say about that. Yes, she is.
Okay. So anything coming up now that any project you are working right now or planning to work?
Yeah, there are a couple of things. During the pandemic, I worked on two things. One was Feels Like Ishq, which you've seen, and the other was a show that I did for Zoom Studios called The Reunion, which we shot in Odisha, which was actually quite interesting because I have never been there, and I can't remember having seen anything that was shot there either. And it's a beautiful state, and we went all over the place and shot in various cities. We shot in Bhubaneswar, Puri, and in the interiors as well. So that is currently being edited. We're in post for that right now. I'm almost done with it. I'm not sure what the release date for that is, but it's a dysfunctional family dramedy, uh, coming of age in some ways as well, set in one house in Odisha, which I'm quite excited about because it turned out pretty nice and it's a good story. It had a really good cast again with people who I enjoyed working with, an ensemble cast. So that's next. And apart from that, writing, pitching. I'm working on something right now with Mutant Films, the people who produced Feels Like Ish. So hopefully something if will get developed. As in we're developing something, hopefully it'll get picked up. So if it does, then yeah, that.
This is very nice thing like shooting in Odisha because I mean I take really keen interest where it is being shot like particularly I have been in Northeast recently like for a month, more than a month. It's a beautiful place, but like it hasn't been explored.
That's
Like
true about a
oh,
that's true about a lot of India, I feel, because the problem, I mean, it's not a problem, but like a couple of decades ago, we started looking to foreign locations exclusively. There was a whole phase of movies, especially rom-coms, which suddenly wanted to go to America and Europe and Australia and discover other countries. But we haven't explored India at all visually. I mean, to the extent that it can be, especially in mainstream cinema. Which is why whenever you see a movie like Anurag Basu ki kaun si thi jo Northeast mein with Ranbir
Barfi.
So now Barfi, for example, the opening section of that was shot in the Northeast, and it looks gorgeous. It's beautiful, and that's a mainstream film. I'm not saying that films aren't shot. Lots of films are shot all over the place. Like in parts. Like for example, Odisha, where I went right now, and I haven't seen anything that's been shot there. And there is so much potential in that city, in that state, and in the various cities of that state that we travel through. There are many. I mean, even if you look just in Maharashtra, you can shoot like 7 movies here. I mean, in different locations. It's just that we tend not to explore that so much. I mean, we have a few stock locations in India. Rajasthan, Delhi, Mumbai mein Gateway or Dharavi. Those are those standard places that you go to, and there's a
Or
lot more.
if you come to Delhi, there are 6 places in South Delhi,
Ha,
CP, Puran
yeah.
Killa, and this thing. Uh,
That is true. In Delhi, for some reason, every actor at some point has to cross Rashtrapati Bhavan. I don't know why, because I lived in Delhi for 11 years and I went there twice. But जब भी कोई हमारे बॉलीवुड की पिक्चर होती है, so then suddenly that Rajpath, Shantipath, Rashtrapati Bhavan is like every car shot is shot there. And there is a lot more. Or then you're having a conversation in the garden of the Qutub Minar, which again nobody really does in real life. So I feel that there's a lot of stuff that can be explored in India and is now being explored because thanks to OTT platforms, shows have increased in number,
yeah.
and so you have a lot of scope to go to different places and expose them.
This is really good thing, like a full movie shot in full series shot in Odisha.
Yeah,
I'll be very excited about it.
yeah,
Just for
this
the
was,
sake of that Odisha visuals.
yeah.
So, do you have like a particular genre of movies that you have a rom-com and action thriller that you want to make, like other than that, horror or period movies or something, like something particular favorite you.
Sorry, Smriti Karan is saying congratulations on Feel Like Ishq. Thanks, Smiths. I expected you to be here. Um, do I have a particular genre that I want to make, or do I like watching? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the last part of that.
Do you want to make, or you like, maybe you are not
I mean,
making, but that's
I like honestly watching, and I would like to make. I keep telling this to everybody who offers me work is that I'm not. I'm very genre agnostic. I don't have any particular, like I have to. I would only want to make this. That's not true. I think horror maybe would take me a little bit of time to wrap my head around because it's not something that I'm really comfortable making. Watching, I don't. I'm not a huge fan, but I don't have a problem watching it. But apart from that, I mean, rom-com to kar liya, action I've done, sci-fi I love to do. I mean, and especially now with again, like I said, with OTT platforms and what's happened to entertainment over the last 5 to 10 years, there is so the lines between genres are blurring so much, and there are so many shows now which you can't peg in one specific genre. On Netflix, on Amazon, internationally there's a lot of stuff now which doesn't fall necessarily within a particular genre. It
yeah.
doesn't, it's not just a rom-com or it's not just an action thriller. There was a show called Patriot, I remember I saw a couple of years ago on Amazon, which is a spy thriller with absurdist elements which are almost like Wes Anderson and David Lynch. I mean, it's not something you can categorize, and it's great. The
Right,
result
yeah.
is great. So I feel I'm not tied down to anything. Horror would probably be the lowest on my priority list, but apart from that, I'm happy to do anything. It's like when Flesh was offered to me, when Siddharth Anand, the producer, when he called me and he told me the concept of Flesh, I mean, it took me a second to say yes because I was like, yes, this is great. I mean, this is what I want to do. I want to do something different. I've done relationship dramas and dramedies and rom-coms all my life now. So, Flesh for me was a really exciting opportunity and I jumped at it. It was a lot of fun.
So, okay.
Somebody asked, why don't I come shoot in Kashmir? Yeah, I'd love to. कहानी तो बनने दो ना मतलब गाना शूट करने कश्मीर नहीं आएंगे ना अगर आएंगे तो कुछ कहानी शूट करने आएंगे otherwise what's the point so if I have
Shooting.
an opportunity I would most definitely come there to shoot. I mean, that's the idea.
Yeah, Kashmir-based movie like in current scenario that will be.
But again, the problem with that is, Nana, it's like what we discussed about LGBTQ representation on screen. Any movie set in Kashmir now has to, in some way, incorporate the politics of Kashmir, which may not necessarily. I mean, sure, it's a very real part, and it has been a very real part of our lives for like 20, 30 years now. But it doesn't. Every story set there doesn't necessarily have to be about that. Lives are still being led against that backdrop, but lives are still being led and stories are still being told. And I mean, they should be told on a bigger scale.
Oh, about that, like people have different views. Like you can't separate, like if it is in
Sure,
Kashmir, you can't separate the struggle. Then if it is not shown,
sure.
then they are not like there.
But I have a problem with that because simply because if you are a filmmaker, if you're a storyteller and you're telling a story, then the fictional universe that you create, the rules of that universe are determined by you. You are deciding
Right.
which part of that world you want to show or what you want to show. And you may end up making a highly unrealistic product which doesn't have any reference to the politics at all. Sure, but that is a choice that you've made, and if the story works for you and if it works for other people, then great. I'm not saying I want to do that. I believe that if I tell a story set in Kashmir, obviously the even if it's a backdrop, the politics have to play a part because it's the reality. And when you go out on the street and there is a bunker every 500 meters, then you can't avoid that, and you can't just frame it out every time you're shooting. But having said that, I firmly believe that whatever story you choose to tell, that's your choice. That you can't tell me what kind of story I should or should not tell. You can choose to like it or dislike it and express your opinion. But what I choose to make
The,
is entirely up
the
to me.
whole job, the complete job of critic is telling you to what you
That
should be
और
making or
और
not. Like
वो काम वो ऑलरेडी काफी अच्छे से करें. Shudip Da has said I love you. Shudip Chatterjee, the DOP who has shot many famous movies, is a dear friend and is now publicly expressing his love for me, which is sweet. Thank you, Shudip Da. I love you too. बाद में बात करते हैं private.
Another thing that about She Loves Me Not,
Yes.
uh, there's like category of people they think like if like it is representing LGBTQ, the
Mhm.
cast that should be like they are playing, they should be from the community. Like there are some characters, so they said they should get that representation somewhere.
Again, I don't agree because that's like saying every time I cast a serial killer, I should get a serial killer. Because और कोई नहीं कर पाएगा मतलब the whole point of storytelling is that you are telling a story. It's fiction, right? Now while representation is great and I'm all for it, very obviously, given that I've made this episode, I believe that at that point of time it's the best character for the role. It's not like I'm asking someone to change their skin color or some visible characteristic because I want to cast them. I'm not making somebody put on dark makeup because I want to cast them because they're more saleable rather than casting somebody from that community. Having said that, I agree that there's a certain authenticity that it brings to the experience. So our writer, for example, Sulagna, who's written the story, she's queer herself. So the story for her that she wrote came from a very personal place, which is why it probably worked. And then I took it forward. But as far as casting goes, I only was looking at. I mean, it's not like I had a column in the audition form saying orientation. We were just auditioning actresses, and whichever the two best ones that worked. I didn't ask them. For all you know, I don't know. I mean, either of them might be experimental, bi-curious. Who knows? I haven't asked them. Maybe you should. But the point is that was not a factor. The factor was this is the role. Who fits this role? Sabha fits this role. Great. Sanjita's character, in fact, took a much longer time to cast because she lives in Delhi, and we eventually found her there. But that was the only criteria.
Yeah, actually, right now, like a mainstream actor even won't be playing like like a gay or lesbian.
Do you think that's true? I don't know. I mean, I feel that that's changing now because a lot of movies and stories are being told where characters have.
Uh,
In fact, you know what I like? I like it where, for example, I think I saw a show recently. I can't remember the name, where you didn't know for the first half an hour or so whether what the person's orientation was, and that's exactly how it should be, which is how it is in real life. It's your choice to tell someone what you identify as. But apart from that, that's not an assumption that I can make about anyone, and I shouldn't. So, whether mainstream actors play it or not, again, that's their personal choice. I feel that it's changing, and there are people who are now more than willing to do that as long as the role is well written and challenging enough.
Like I'm saying because like
Yes,
Kapoor and Sons, that role was declined by many actors, I believe.
sure. But again, Kapoor and Sons was some time back, and like I said, things have changed now. Who declined it? Why they declined it? I have no idea. Whatever the reasons were, I'm sure they have the reasons. But I mean, all I can say is great because it worked out in the end because the movie was
Yeah,
fantastic
really
and the
good movie.
cast was absolutely fantastic and every single actor in that movie was great and Shakun is I mean he's a close friend of mine and he is an absolutely brilliant director. So I mean I think it all worked out for him in the end because what he
Yeah,
ended up what he
Fawaz
ended
was
up with
brilliant.
what he ended up with was a fantastic movie and maybe it wouldn't have been the same if any of the others had said yes. So it all works out.
But so we can talk to audience. They like people are posting
नहीं ऑडियंस
questions.
ऑडियंस उतनी है नहीं तो जिनको अगर सवाल पूछना होगा तो पूछ लेंगे जहां जहां मुझे
Okay,
दिख रहा है I'll point out
so we
unless
can
somebody
just say
has
like
unless somebody has
anybody.
a question unless somebody has
Yeah.
a specific question to ask ideally somebody who doesn't know me and is not going to declare love for me publicly rest of it is fine
That's true. Like people in India, I mean, mainstream mass doesn't know who is behind the camera. They know movie with the face that they can see on the screen.
Unless you're a judge on a reality show then they know who you are
Yeah, that's true.
and you also make lots of money but will
So
you ever
good.
work with your wife no baby I won't hi I can see you I don't know. I've always answered this question historically as no because I'd like to keep things sane at home. So I'm going to stick to that right now.
We would love to see that, by the way.
It's okay. I mean, थोड़ी इज्जत मिलती है सेट पे एज अ डायरेक्टर वो भी चली जाएगी. It's fine.
So,
Because of what I just said. Okay, moving on.
let's
Would
like
you consider telling stories through documentaries? Yeah, sure. I mean, I've never done nonfiction in my life, honestly speaking. But I mean, it has to be a story worth telling, no? My natural inclination is to tell a story through fiction. Samantha, whose question I'm answering, because that's just. I mean, I guess that's what I've trained to do and I've done. But yeah, sure. Because telling a story to documentary is also it's a very different skill set. It's like making an ad. Because you're a feature filmmaker doesn't mean you can make an ad because you have to tell a story in 30 to 60 seconds as opposed to telling a story in 60 to 90 minutes. The grammar is different, the skill set is different. So it's not like, a documentary is just a series of interviews, talking heads, or just archival footage placed together. It requires a whole different skill set, which I don't know if I have, but if there's a subject that inspires me to do it, then yeah, sure. There have been people like Edgar Wright, I think recently just released a documentary on a band, and there are many people, fiction directors who've made documentaries. Scorsese has. So if there's something that pops up, this is a slightly cliched answer, but if something pops up that's exciting, then sure, why not?
yeah. Also, documentaries are like they little bit journalistic.
They're a little
I
bit
mean,
what?
journalistic. You need like skills in
Well, I mean,
journalism.
increasingly, I feel these days the way that documentaries are being told are more and more. There's a lot more packaging that happens now. If you see the recent bunch that cropped up, there's a lot of. I feel. I mean, it's not commercial. That's the wrong word for it, but they're not as straightforward and simple as they are. There's a certain amount of production value and budget that goes into them. Like I just saw that series Last Dance about Michael Jordan on Netflix, and it's beautifully made. And it's mainly archival footage and talking heads again, but it's just the way that it's made and the scale at which they've made it. I don't think a documentary would be made like that 15 years ago. That would be a lot more journalistic and straightforward. The Kavita, the actor you want to work with. So many. So
Name of
many. Uh, Tom Hardy, Daniel Day-Lewis, Ryan Gosling, Amir, Shah Rukh, Vicky Kaushal, who is a neighbor and I think is a great actor. Rajkumar Rao, who's also a neighbor and I think is a great actor. Honestly, I can go on. There are so many, and I'll leave out so many names. Because I feel that also because of, I mean, not just film, but because of digital storytelling over the last 5 years, the number of actors who have now suddenly come up and been recognized and been given a platform has gone up so much that there's almost an embarrassment of riches now. There's just so many names, and all of whom are, you can now make a show with, as opposed to earlier where you'd go and try to make a story with someone and they'd be like, नहीं मगर इनका फ्राइडे को बॉक्स ऑफिस रिटर्न नहीं मिलेगा तो नहीं बना सकते.
right, yeah. Even the screen, you won't get the screen, like they're limited. And every Friday there's a big Bollywood movie releasing, like from big production house. So the smaller one won't
Yeah,
get the screen.
yeah, that's true.
So we can like really curtail the question if we go on like your favorite actor, actress
नहीं
to
यार,
work
please
with.
don't do that. That's very boring. सोचना पड़ता है, and the thing is that you never ना, somebody asks you that question, there's nothing at the top of your head, so you just end up saying something random. You have to, these are the,
Any
like this you have
director,
to,
like
this you have
any
to.
director in Bollywood. Uh,
In Bollywood, yes, many. Mani Ratnam is my personal god, who I absolutely love, and uh, I don't know if you know this, but a lot of his former assistants like Shah, Bijoy, they all kind of go back and work with him on his movies as ADs. Even now, right now, I think Bijoy is working with him on something. And I think that in itself is a measure of the kind of inspiration that he is for people. That established directors who have careers kind of just go away for 4 months and assist Mani sir because Mani sir kuch bana rahe. I feel that man is a genius. So he's top of my list here. Then there are many others. I mean, Vishal Bhardwaj, he's a great director, and I've liked every one of his films. Shujit, Dibakar, Anurag, Vikram Motwani, who is also a friend and I think a fantastic director. And again, varies his stories, has done many different genres, which I think is a talent in itself. Being able to do that as a director, I feel like globally as well. Ang Lee is one of my favorites simply for that reason because if from the start of his career till now, he has done small budget indie films about families, big budget Life of Pi type VFX extravaganzas, Hulk, Brokeback Mountain, which was the pioneering LGBTQ movie. The man's done everything. And another one who people don't really think about is George Miller, who made Mad Max. But before that, he made Babe, Big in the City. And after that, he made Happy Feet 1 and 2. So, and before that, he made Mad Max 1. So I feel that kind of range is really impressive in a director. And actress. Yeah, वही हो गया ना फिर सवाल.
yeah, that's what I was saying. We can really settle down this question if we do
Yes.
this.
Too many names. I've worked with a couple of whom I really wanted to work with. Deepika, I've always wanted to work with, so I did that. Swara, I have now worked a lot with, and I enjoyed working with her and wanted to work with her. But there are too many, man. Again, there's just so many names, and new ones keep cropping up every day. Sub chilling. As long as they're willing to audition, I'm happy to work with everybody. That immediately cuts down 50%.
Uh, okay, so no other questions that we have from. Actually, it's uh, afternoon in midweek is the
Oh yeah,
point
so
like that.
that's fine.
I'm just checking if we have missed any question.
Go for it.
Yeah. All I can see is hearts and things like that. Okay. So the last question maybe then. Anything like you write scripts for yourself? You,
I have started. So, I said I've started means now I do write them. I mean, I did additional screenplay and dialogues on this episode as well of Feels Like Ishq. So the way it started was that I didn't initially on Break Ke Baad. Renuka was the writer. I co-wrote the story with her, as in because I took the story to her, and she did the screenplay and the dialogues on her own. But you know how there's a trend that started now that actors have started producing and writing scripts for themselves because they can't find good scripts to work in. I think that happens with directors as well. Because technically directors aren't supposed to write. I mean, if you look at it, if you're a director, your job is the visual medium. You're not supposed to be able to write. It's an added bonus. But the writer director has now become a thing over the last decade or so, I feel. I mean, there have always been some in the industry, but I feel it's now, if you're a director as well, and if you go to a pitch, people will always ask you, do you have any ideas? That's one. And the second thing is that what ends up happening for better or for worse is that with each subsequent project, I ended up writing a little bit more because there was always a voice that I wanted to express, and perhaps the script wasn't capturing it exactly the way I wanted to. And at the end of it, it's just quicker to do it yourself rather than constantly going back and forth with the writer and saying, Acha, no, I don't want this, change it to this, I don't want this. So it's not that simple. I think I did a pass on the screenplay and the dialogues. Then with Time Out, I co-wrote with Flesh. I co-wrote right from the beginning, like right from the breakdown of the season. So eventually, I've now reached a space. I've reached a point where so I started with doing a bit of story, then I started doing screenplay, then I started doing dialogues. Now I do everything. So to answer your question, yes, I do right now. Through a process of evolution, I have reached a place where I've taught myself how to write over the last 10 years of being a director.
so like I asked because like in that case you can like write your dream project, dream genre, and dream like if you are
Yeah,
writing the
लिखने और बनाने में बहुत difference होता है ना. I can write, so I can write a lot of stuff. Being able to make it is not necessarily that easy. Uh, Also, I think I'm a bit of a lazy writer, so it takes me a lot of time to get writing. Like writers or professionals have discipline, which I lack. Unless there's a deadline on my head and I need to submit something the next day, it's not easy for me to start writing. It takes a while to get into the world and the headspace and stuff like that. Once that happens, it's fast. So also to write on spec, वो dream project का क्या है ना? That's the problem. You have to write on spec. Nobody's commissioning it. Nobody's told you that no, you're not getting paid for it. There's no deadline for it. So then those things tend to take a backseat because there's always something else to do so that you can go on.
so there are a few more comments for you.
And it's nice to see you too. After, yeah, bye.
So here we can wrap it up.
Yes.
There's also one thing like people write to me whenever I talk to somebody. People watch it later and send me comments. If there are comments, I will DM you because people keep on messaging me.
Absolutely.
So, okay, then all the best and congratulations for your movie. And please keep us informed with your future projects. We would love to like
Thank
cover
you.
them.
Thank you
Thank
very much.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.